Alright, so today we're going to be discussing pronouns. Now, that was something in the grammar evaluations. I saw a lot of pronoun misusage in general. Now, if you'll notice, the first page of your kind of instruction sheet, it's like a teacher page, you know? It's written from the perspective of like someone trying to tell a teacher kind of what they need to tell their students. But I left it there because it explains everything very well. Some of the most common pronoun mistakes. And they mentioned the me and Bob syndrome is rampant. Like you hear, me and so-and-so are going to Chick-fil-A this afternoon. Like you hear me and them all the time. And again, it sounds correct. They say it sounds correct. But grammatically, if you say, may me and Tom go to the library, if you remove Tom from that sentence, or and Tom, it just says, may me go to the library. All of a sudden it sounds ridiculous. So, one of the keys with pronoun situations like that is crossing out, covering up the pronoun or the other person or subject next to the pronoun. So in this case, it's Tom. That shows I don't have dry erase markers. I'll go start one of those. Covering up that whole other name, person, subject, whatever, and just saying the pronoun in the rest of the sentence. So may me go to the library, or would it be may I go to the library? Obviously, it's may I go to the library. So that would mean may Tom and I go to the library would be correct. Let's see. Another common mistake in C, it says, it uses the example, John is taller than me. We say that all the time. We end sentences with me all the time. And it sounds normal in conversational English, but if you're writing a paper, that's something you need to correct. And what you can easily figure out what's correct in that case is just putting am at the end of the sentence. So if you put John is taller than me am, all of a sudden that sounds like a different language. And so by putting am at the end, you can tell that it should be I am instead of me am. John is taller than I am. So you can say John is taller than I. Which when you say that in conversational English, it kind of sounds like you're trying to sound fancy and upbeat, but that's just the way it actually should be. We've kind of degenerated English over the years, and it's kind of sad. Alright. So yeah, for now, I'll just let y'all mull over that for a second. You can kind of review over this first page. I'm going to go get a couple dry erase markers. I'm going to get those so I can write a few things on the board. I'll be back.
What?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be going for it. I think I'm writing with the eyeglasses. Garrett.
Nice.
What? It's rolling?
Yeah.
Cool. I couldn't hear less because I was joking.
I didn't even understand what you said, so.
No.
We were starting.
This door is the worst. So, look at your second page in your sort of instruction booklet. This should be the page that talks about pronouns take the place of nouns, they agree in number and gender, alright? So this is something I saw a lot in the grammar evaluations, just where the number of the pronoun didn't match the subject. For example, Sarah and John missed their bus. When you use their as a pronoun, I'll write this out. And this is correct because whenever you use there have to be multiple, two or more people that there is referring to. Now we use their all the time in cases where we're just referring to like one person. It's like, oh yeah, I don't know, John left it. I don't know, I think there's some situations where it's a little more obvious than others. But I noticed in the grammar evaluations, there were a lot of times when the sentence would say there when it was only one person referred, and very few students got that. Like that was something that was across the board, I think. Very few caught that at all. So yeah, make sure your pronoun matches the number, and then also make sure your pronoun matches the gender. This isn't as much of an issue, but you would say that Joan likes to ride her bike. I don't even think I really need to write these down because this is pretty obvious. And then he gives his dog a bath each week. So you just make sure it's referring to the proper person.
Wait,
proper
it's like Aiden. Aiden.
Sorry?
Aiden.
Aiden?
His name's Aiden.
Aiden?
Yeah.
Then you would say
boys and girls, I know.
Then you would just you'd say Aiden gives his dog a bath each week, or if it happens to be a girl, you say Aiden gives her dog a bath each week. Well,
you just guess.
If there's no place to put a pronoun in, then you just have to guess. But in that case, when you want the reader to know whether Aiden's a boy or a girl, you would need to find a way to write the sentence in a way that you can include a pronoun that clears that up. Like, you wouldn't say, you wouldn't say Aiden gives the dog a bath each week. You would say Aiden gives her dog a bath each week. So you can specify, hey, Aiden's a girl. Although I don't know any girls named Aiden, but or maybe Hayden, I don't know. Anyway. All right, so, and then if you aren't sure, this is another thing. If you aren't sure if the noun is female or male, you may use either like his/her, or it says just saying his has become acceptable in this situation. So when you're saying each person brought his or her own lunch, or you can just say each person brought his own lunch. That's always what's been acceptable. His is just the general assumed pronoun. Now, this day and age, with all the gender whatnot stuff out there, a lot of people are like, well, that's sexist if you use his. I don't personally think so. I think it's fine. It sounds normal in sentences. You assume his means either one. I don't care, but that's just what the way the rule is. So you can either say his, her, or just his, and either one works. If you're unsure, if it could be both, like when you say each person brought his or her own lunch, it's a bunch of people, so it could be either one. You don't know for sure. So either one of those options works.
Could you write each person brought their own lunch?
Each person, this is where you wouldn't say there, because it's each person.
Oh, so
It's referring to the person. So you wouldn't say there.
It's talking about the individual people.
Yes, there are a bunch of them, but this sentence, when it says each person, it's referring to that one individual person of the many. So yeah, they wouldn't bring their lunch. It's referring to that one person, so that's why you would need to say his or his her. Yeah, that's one of the situations I was trying to think of where it is confusing, where you would think, well, wouldn't it be there? Because that's how we say it, but no, it's referring to that one person, so it would need to be his, her, or his. All right, so there's this nifty little chart down here where we have nominative, pronoun. These are a bunch of fancy words, and we won't get too deep into the terminology. I mainly, for the sake of the Iowa test, just want y'all to kind of learn how pronouns function, in a sense. So if you look down here at the bottom, beneath this chart, with all the fancy titles, they tell you the function of each pronoun. So nominative pronouns, nominative is just kind of a fancy word for naming pronouns. Their function in the sentence can be as the subject or the predicate nominative, which we'll get to in a minute. And then objective pronouns, they function as the object of the preposition. So when you have prepositional phrases, the objects in prepositional phrases, that's what that's referring to. And then they also function as direct objects and indirect objects. All the objective pronouns, me, him, her, you, it, us, them, whom. And then possessive pronouns, all the my, his, her, yours, those all show ownership. It's referring to someone possessing something. All right, so let's move to the next page. All right, so personal pronouns and nominative pronouns. So the nominative pronouns are I, he, she, you, it, we, they, you. So they make a note, look at the pronoun chart. There are only two pronouns that are in both the nominative and objective columns, and that's you and it. Those are called neutral pronouns, and they don't change from nominative to objective form. This is a lot, and this is a lot of terminology at once. You're going to be like, what does all this mean? We'll slowly work through that. All right, so nominative pronouns function as either the subject or predicate nominative in a sentence. Now the predicate nominative, if you look at section B on this page, predicate nominative is the same as the subject of the sentence. So that sounds kind of vague until you look at it up close. So if we write the example, that lady is my sister. So what's the subject in this sentence? What would the subject be? Lady. Yeah. The lady, because then there's the verb, is, and the predicate nominative is,
My sister is describing the lady.
yes, the lady is my sister. That's the predicate nominative. So that's what that means. So when I say that the nominative pronouns can function as either the subject or predicate nominative, you can substitute one of these pronouns for this word. So for example, in the second example that they give, it says the winner was she. Now that kind of sounds odd, but let's look at it and see if it works. The winner was she. So subject is winner, verb, predicate nominative. They're saying that she is the winner. So it's describing it, yes.
You need to memorize these.
What do you mean? You memorize the columns of?
The nominative pronouns.
Oh no, I mean, this, if you want to, go for it, but this is just kind of to help y'all for the Iowa test. That's the goal of this whole thing.
I
Just to help y'all.
We had to memorize these in school we used to go to.
Yeah, yes. See, I don't function particularly well when I have to memorize a ton of things. For me, I'm a conceptual person. Like if I can learn how it functions and, you know, just writing, if I can remember how it functions, remember what sounds right, doesn't sound right. That's how I work. I don't do well memorizing lists of columns and what don't. So I would say you don't have to, but if you want to, go for it. So the winner was she. She, if the pronoun she can work as the predicate nominative here, describing the winner. And the way you can check and make sure this sort of sentence is correct is just flipping it. And y'all see that in the example. If you flip-flop it, it would say, oops, it doesn't start with the anymore. It would be, she is the winner. So in this format, what's the subject? What's the new subject if you flip it? She, verb is, and then winner is our predicate nominative. And that sounds correct. She is the winner. Now if we said the winner was her, if we flip-flopped it, it would have said her is the winner. And we know that's not correct. So that's one way you can check and see if you're using the correct pronouns in cases like this. And I don't know how many of y'all remember that first reading quiz that we did about the baseball player who had one hand. And there was a sentence that ended in his dad and him. And if you flipped it around, because it was supposed to be his dad and he, so it would say he and his dad did this, that, and the other. So that's a similar situation, like a real life example of where sometimes you have to just flip it around, put the pronoun at the beginning of the sentence and see if it still works. All right. Yeah, let's move to the next page. Pronouns and antecedents. This is kind of what we've already started talking about. I think pronoun antecedent agreement was the number one thing that no one ever caught in the grammar evaluations. Because they're hard to spot. They really are. We don't talk this way, and they're just really hard to spot. So, An antecedent is the noun or pronoun to which a possessive or reflexive pronoun refers back in the sentence. So, the dog lost its collar. The pronoun it refers back to the dog. The dog lost the dog's collar. And so dog is the noun that it refers back to in the sentence. Now also in the case of the dog, you could say his or her, but you wouldn't say their because it's just one dog. You could say, yeah, the dog lost his collar. You could say that. But in this case, they're not really assigning gender to their dog. But yeah, dog is the antecedent to the pronoun. So again, these are a lot of big words that I'm not expecting y'all to memorize exactly what all these words, the exact meaning of them, but I just want y'all to see how they function in the sentence and just kind of get a feel for what sounds correct and is correct grammar in the sentence. So right up here with the dog. Let's see, the dog, yeah. The dog lost its collar. So, it is our pronoun, and you always have to make sure that the pronoun is referring to the correct number. We already talked about number and gender, being two things you need to consider. So this time, I guess the gender of the dog isn't necessary in a sentence, but we need to make sure that the number is correct. It is just one, there's just one dog, we're good. So, let's look at the next example. Some ducklings waddle after their mother. Is this correct?
Yes.
Yes, and why?
There's ducklings.
Yes, yeah, there refers to multiple ducklings. So the ducklings waddle, or some ducklings their mother. So yeah, we already have some ducklings. So we don't know how many exactly, but we know there's more than two because it's some ducklings. So here's our pronoun here. So we have to make sure that it's plural. If we have there, and it is plural, we're good. This is grammatically correct. And the last one, this is another one of those, it's a lot of people, we don't know the specific gender of the person who lost their comb, because it says, has anyone lost his comb? Now, I'll go ahead and guarantee you, I would say in normal conversational English, has anyone lost their comb? Someone lost their comb. I wouldn't say his in normal English, but these are things you need to look at when writing. Has anyone lost his comb? That's how you would say that correctly, because his is a singular, generic, neutral pronoun in that case, because we don't know, and it points back to anyone. Anyone refers to one of the many there. If you're not referring to everyone at once, it's referring to one person when you say anyone. And that's tricky. So yeah, pronoun antecedent agreement is mainly just make sure, see what your pronoun is, find your pronoun in the sentence, and then check and make sure that it matches with the antecedent or usually the subject in the sentence. Make sure that it's the correct number and gender. Is that the last one already? Did I skip this? Did I skip this?
Man.
No.
Wow, okay, in that case, I'll go ahead and talk over the worksheets with you. We won't actually work through all of them today because that would take a long time. You know what, as a matter of fact, we may, I'm trying to think if one of them would be a little more confusing than the other. I think we can maybe talk through the predicate nominative one. We can do a few, the first like 3 in each page just so you get the hang of them, okay? So let's do that. Let's do the first 3 on each page because we still have a good bit of time. At least that'll kind of give you a head start so you'll know what you're doing for each one. Alright, so the first one, this is discussing pronouns, whether the one referred to is the subject or predicate nominative. So all you do for this one, this is one of the ones that we won't take much time at all. You just write S in the line if the underlined pronoun is the subject of the sentence, and write PN if the on the line provided this underlined pronoun is the predicate nominative of the sentence. So the key for knowing what the subject is, just look for the verb next to that subject. So whatever is doing the action in the sentence, that's your subject. Any other pronouns or words are the predicate nominative. So first one, the security guard and I searched the building. What purpose does I serve in the subject, or in the sentence?
It's a subject.
It's a subject, you're right. And it's a compound subject. It's not just I search the building, it's the security guard and I search the building, but I is the one doing the action too. So, I search the building. So yeah, the example in this case, I is serving as the subject. Alright, what about 2? They will not be fishing in that lake. They is a villain. It is a subject. They will not be fishing in that lake. Correct, that's pretty straightforward. 3, what about that one?
Nominative.
Predicate nominative. Because they're not the ones completing the action here. It just says our student council officers are those 3 and I. So that's one of those situations where it's just pointing back, it's describing the subject, giving a name to the subject. It's the nominative term. Yeah, so that's pretty simple. I think y'all can go through and figure that out. You seem to be able to figure that out on your own. Are there any questions about this page before we move on, just to make sure we're good? It's pretty simple. Just make sure subjects are the ones doing the action. And yeah, should be pretty straightforward. But again, email me if you have any questions while you're doing these, if anything doesn't seem to be making sense.
Whoa.
Yeah, sorry, the second one's a little blurry.
I was like,
Okay.
No, you're good, you're good. Because I have to make scans. These are from a different book. I have to make scans of them, and the scan,
Whoa.
I didn't really see it was blurry until this morning. So yeah, sorry about that. All right, so this is this is a really helpful worksheet, y'all. But I think this one's probably my favorite. You're just selecting the correct pronoun. They give you 2 options that are kind of the most common options, and you choose which one is grammatically correct. And remember, what was the trick that I suggested, or a couple of tricks that I suggested for figuring these out?
Verbs.
One of the subjects. So let's see, if we look at number 5, this is my father and I or me refinish an old car. So just take away my father and see which one fits. That's one of them. And I think the other one is, maybe putting the pronoun if it's at the end of the sentence, flipping the sentence around so it's at the beginning, so it's the subject, and seeing if it still flows. So let's go through the first 3 again. Actually, hold on, what I just said, we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. Question 1. Someone must sit near I or me. Me. Someone must sit near me. And I don't think this is one where you can really.
You can't flip that one. Yeah, that does not work.
That one just, yeah, and that's what I was about to say. Some of them, I think that may be a different case. That's maybe with predicate nominatives where you can reverse it. It's not with this. So yeah, I got those 2 mixed up. So yeah, predicate nominatives are where you can switch them. You can't really switch these usually. So question 2. We or us want a new bike. We want a new bike.
I think that's a kite.
Okay, sorry, kite. Again, the blur. Sorry, guys.
With my eye.
So we want a new kite. Us don't want a new kite. We want a new kite. Then what about 3? The kitten followed us. See, again, some of them are pretty, they make sense, but then later on they get a little more confusing. So let's go ahead and do 4. Our principal presented Tom and I or me awards.
Me.
It would be me. So if you take away Tom, our principal presented me awards. You would say our principal presented I awards. Yeah, so that's one of the cases where you need to think about it just a little bit. So yeah, the rest of those y'all can probably figure out on your own. Oh, and I like this pronoun antecedents sheet too. The next one, with each of these sentences, make sure all you're doing is writing what the pronoun is referring to. So, a student cleaned out her desk. Her refers to the student. Our club held its annual car wash. Who's it's referring to?
Well,
Our club, yeah. And then 2, has Dad worn his new suit yet? Who's that referring to? Dad. So some of this, it seems kind of like mundane. You're kind of like, okay, I get this. But the practice will help you be able to identify it more automatically come test day when you're taking the Iowa test and you're not really remembering necessarily every single little rule that we talked about. You can remember, oh yeah, I had to write like endless sentences, making sure that my pronouns and antecedents match. So I can point out that one, like I know that's wrong. So that's kind of what I want the goal to be here, is not cramming and memorizing a bunch of things, but just getting familiar with the proper structure of things. All right, and then the last page, it's asking about, this is a little more about just sentence structure labeling, or sentence diagramming. We're looking at predicate nominatives, and so the directions say to cross out any prepositional phrases, because as y'all learned in one of your lessons in English 10, prepositional phrases usually aren't necessary to a sentence. They add extra meaning to it, they clarify a lot of things, but you can take away a prepositional phrase and the sentence still holds as a sentence. So cross out prepositional phrases and underline subject once, verb phrase twice, and then label the predicate nominatives. And then write the inverted form of the sentence in the line provided. So you do all that marking and underlining on the sentence given, and then you flip it around, you write the inverted form in the sentence or in the line provided. So Justin Harper is my friend. There's no prepositional phrases in there, so don't worry about that. What's the subject in this sentence? Justin Harper, yeah. So Justin would be underlined once, and then what's the verb?
is.
Is. So you underline is twice. And then what's the predicate nominative in this sentence? Friend. Yeah, Justin Harper is my friend. And then for each of these sentences, they give an example of using a pronoun in the predicate nominative spot. So our next sentence is Justin Harper is he. So it's like almost like you're identifying, hey, Justin Harper is he. Even though in most cases I would say he is Justin Harper, but if you wanted to flip it, it would be Justin Harper, subject, verb is, and then predicate nominative is he. I'm going to go ahead and skip to 5 because 3 and 4 are basically exactly the same as the first reading. So 5, it says the lawyer is the man in the brown suit. Who's the subject?
Or
A lawyer. What's the verb?
Is.
is.
No, is.
Is. Yep. And then what's our prepositional phrase that we need to cross out?
In the brown suit.
In the brown suit. So that helps us identify, suit's not our predicate nominative. Who's our who or what is our predicate nominative? The man. Yeah. So it's usually, cross out the prepositional phrases first, because that kind of clears up the sentence, points out the actual, the bare bones, backbones of the sentence once you cross all those out. Okay. I think that's it. It is 8:45, so if y'all want, y'all can take the rest of this time to just
I
not
have
skip
to
this
work
out.
on something for Matt.
If you do, you're welcome to go do that. So yeah, again, guys, like I said, this isn't like I don't want you to memorize these lists of pronouns and which one's the nominative and objective. I don't want y'all to do that because that's just kind of unnecessary trouble on your part. Maybe you'll take an English class later that'll require that. I don't know. But for now, I just want y'all to get used to the structure of it and the functionality of it in a sentence. And email me if you have any questions. Also, do y'all have your sheets from last week? So
Yes.
the dangling modifier.
Yeah, I think that.
Cool. Okay. Just try to get you those by the end of today. Either hard copy sometime today while I'm here, or just send them to me in an email.
Send it to me.
That's okay.
I have it with me. I don't know.
Yeah, I just like to look over those and just kind of give feedback, make sure you're on doing the right thing.
Yeah, some of these I couldn't figure out.
Some of them are all tricky, I will say, yeah.